What's up guys, hello and welcome to my another Unreal Engine 4 tutorial. Today we are going to create some sort of like dynamic backgrounds for our UMG widget blueprints. I don't know the exactly correct word for what this could be, but I'm just calling it dynamic background. And what it does, I'm just gonna show you quickly, is that this is our menu. Well, there is no buttons or anything. That doesn't matter. We have two images here. We have background and foreground. And what this allows you to do, what we are going to do, it allows you to basically have this like 3D dimension, and it's also moving these pictures based on our mouse cursor location on the viewport. And you can have as many things following as you want, and they don't have to be images. They can be anything that are inside the widget blueprint. So let's get started with this, and I'm just gonna use these two pictures I have. You can use whatever you have. You can have like one image if you want for now. Even buttons and everything works with this method, so there will be stuff or things you can test it on. So let's create a project first. I'm gonna create blank because I'm not gonna have any meshes or anything else. So I'm gonna call this db_tutorial. I don't know. That's gonna be fine. I don't want starter content. Yeah, maximum quality is fine and desktop console is fine. Let's hit create project. All right, now we are here. We are going to create a, or I mean, we are going to use a. It was blueprint functions library, and why is that? Is because this function or two functions we're going to create are not exactly related to anything, so we want to be able also to just find them anywhere in the engine, wherever we are, in any blueprint we are on. We want to be able to find this. Of course, this will be mainly using this for inside widget blueprints. So that's a good thing as well, to have it inside functions library, so we can find it inside any widget blueprint. Let me go quickly see. First of all, I'm just going to delete everything from here. I don't need this. Yes to all. I'm going to create here a maps folder because I just want to save this inside here, and I'm going to call this map. That's fine. Then I'm going to create a textures folder. Inside here I'm going to import textures. Okay, now we have these. I have two images here, ground and sky. I'm going to add this kind of like 3D dimension into this one. Then we're gonna create a blueprints folder. Blueprints. It's correct. Inside here, what I want is first I'm gonna create blueprint class, game mode base. Yeah, I'm just gonna do it like that, where we wouldn't have to do this if we just go like inside the widget blueprint and we just cast to player controller and set show mouse cursor. Actually, let's do it like that. Yeah, don't wanna create too much stuff right now. So first I'm gonna create my blueprint here. I'm gonna call this menu, for example. Let's open it up. Let's go in grab first, and we don't need event pre-construct and event tick. Yeah, we are using these too. Yeah, because the functions are basically running on every tick. That's the important thing you have to know. I'm gonna first get player controller, and from the region value we drag out and set show mouse cursor. Yeah, we wanna set this to true, and we wanna connect it with the event construct. Yeah, compound save, and let's actually create the designer, the widget first. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use only 2 images here right now. So I'm gonna drag image and image, and since I have foreground and background here, so I'm gonna call this one foreground. I'm gonna call this background. Then it's important to actually know this is that the Z orders has to be correct. So the background is in the background, I'm gonna leave it as 0, and the foreground I'm gonna set it to 1, so it will always be on top of background. Then I wanna set the anchors to the maximize here, and then I'm gonna set all of these to 0s. Now I'm gonna do the same for all of these. Okay, now another thing that you have to know is that in order to make this to look good, the image has to be bigger than the actual views, the actual canvas panel here. So it's really simple. I'm just gonna select my foreground. Our anchors are set to all corners, and now I'm just gonna make all of these to something like -100. So it's slightly over this display area, and we want all of our backgrounds to be like that. Because if we don't do this, then you just keep this the same size as this display view size. Oh, my phone. Anyways, so the issue is that if these images are the same size as this display, and then whenever you move your mouse at some side, you will see black areas, and that's because we are basically moving these images on runtime. So that's why it's important to have your images slightly bigger than the display size here. Okay, so my background brush, I'm gonna make it the sky, and the ground is gonna be my foreground. I mean, my foreground is gonna be a ground. Like that. Okay, and combine and save. Once we are done with this, for now, we can just move this aside or just move it out of way quickly. And we are gonna create something inside blueprints folder. We are gonna create the blueprints function library. So let's go to blueprints, and here we want this blueprint functions library. You can call it anything you want. I'm gonna call this my functions. Then we are gonna open it up here. Okay, so inside here we're gonna create 2 different functions, and the difference for these functions are that one is used for a single object, and the other one is used for multi-objects. So why multi-objects? It's, let's say if you have many different like images or buttons or anything inside your widget, you wanna have these effects on. You will have tons and tons of these single dynamic background functions, and that's just a waste of time. So instead we are using a multi-dynamic background version for that. But first, let's create the single one, and this can get quite spaghetti inside here. For that, I am gonna create a local variables. You don't need these, but this just really keeps everything like organized and not so weird and spaghetti like they could be. So first, before creating any local variables, let's create let's first actually rename this function. I'm gonna call this function as single dynamic background. And then we need some inputs. We need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 inputs overall. So first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. First one is going to be Boolean. I'm going to call this enable, because if you want to disable this effect on runtime, then this is the way we can do it. The second one is going to be called target, and this is going to be a widget. So widget. Oh, I forgot to say this before earlier. I'm not sure in which Unreal Engine versions this actually works. If I remember correctly, at least from 4.18 and above, it should be workable. I'm not sure below that. So at least 4.18 is the one you want to use. So we want to use widget here. This is the base class for all Rapid Slate controls that are exposed to U objects. So we want reference here. Then second one, we're gonna call this X. This is like an X-axis, and it's gonna be float. Then we're gonna create Y, and it's gonna be float as well. Then we're gonna create interp speed. This is going to be a float. Yeah, we are using interpolation here. Then the last two are going to be booleans. The one is going to be smooth. So what this smooth does is that we can toggle on and off, like are we using interpolation or not. Because at some cases, the smooth can look really, really weird. And then we want to do invert. So we are basically inverting the X and Y axis. You can have one more pin for like invert X and invert Y. But I'm just gonna use this one like that. Now I'm gonna create these local variables here. So we need 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And I'm gonna call this a local enable. I'm gonna call this local target. Let's rename all of these before changing the types. Local X. I'm gonna call this local Y. Local interp speed. Moving my microphone a little bit. There we go. Local smooth, and then local invert. So the target was a widget target here. The local X is float, local Y is float, interp speed is float, and these two are then booleans. Now we can set this up. So we are going to set this, the local boolean with local enable with enable, and so on and so on. X here, Y, interp speed, smooth, and then invert. Great. Okay, compile and save, and now we can start the actual coding here. So first, of course, we're gonna check something. So we're gonna get branch here with B as banana, and the condition is gonna be local enable here. Then we want another branch after this, and we're gonna connect this with the true of the first branch. And the condition is going to be local invert. Okay, then let's do the false first. So what we're gonna do here, we're gonna get mouse position on viewport. This is gonna be a Y. The return values, we can just right click here and split struct pin. Then from the execution pin we want to get a boolean here. Boolean, I mean branch. I am my misspelling today so much. Condition is gonna be local smooth. Then from true, let's get our local target here, and we want to drag out of it and set render transform. We could do as actually translation. This should be working as well. We don't need necessarily transform. The translation is fine. We connect this with the true of the branch, and now comes a little bit spaghetti. Right click translation, and from the X we want to get finterp 2. finterp 2. We can duplicate this underneath here because we need to do the same for the Y here as well. I'm gonna just move these because we need some space here. The interrupt speed is going to be our local interrupt speed for both of these. Delta time, we can track out of it and get world delta seconds. We can duplicate this underneath here as well. Word context objects, you don't have to worry about these. This still works, don't worry. Just ignore them. Let's move them a little bit back here. Then let me get this. The current is we need to get the local target here. We drag out of it and we are gonna get transform here. We can right click the transform and split struct, and then we can right click this render transform translation, and we want to split that one up as well. So the X is gonna be the current of the first one, and the Y is the current of the second one. Then the targets, here we want to back here we have this get mouse position viewport. We want to drag, let's drag out the X, and we want to divide, so float divided by float, and we want to add 2 of these, one for X and one for Y. And now we want to get the local X is gonna be the first one. It's gonna be the bottom pin here. The both X and Y are gonna be bottoms like that. Then the X one we want to track the target of the first interpolation, and the Y is gonna be the target of the second. And this is only for the true. Now we have to do the false as well. The false is gonna be simple, really. We can duplicate this set render translation and local target. We can just duplicate it here, and we don't need to worry about this one. So so the set render translation, let's connect it with the false of this branch here. And then the translation X and Y, we just drag from these local X and Y up, up here from these divisions. Anyways, there'll be X for the X and Y for the Y, like that. And this is done for the false of local invert. We now have to work on this invert again, and this is actually gonna be quite simple. It's gonna be almost the same as this one. So we can select all of this and we can just duplicate them up here. Let's connect this up with the true of this local invert. The only thing, if I'm correct here, that we're gonna change is that these two, local X and local Y, let's disconnect them from these divisions. We're gonna add something in middle. From the X, let's do time, so float times by float, and we're gonna times it with -1, and then we can connect this with the division. I don't know how to pronounce that. The same for the Y as well, and we are done with this. We don't have to do anything else here. So basically, we are multiplying it by -1, which means it's gonna be inverted. Okay, so now this is for the single dynamic background. Now we have to do the same thing for the multi. What's the good thing about this is we can just basically duplicate this whole function here. So duplicate it and let's call it multi dynamic background. Now let's open it, and okay, it has the same local variables here. That's the one we want. Well, I don't have these locals on my other project, and that's why it's like really stack carry. So let's just work on this one here. The only things we are gonna have to change is we need to get rid of this local target, because we are not gonna use local target, we are gonna use an array instead. And here as well. So now we can change this input mode here, the target widget, and it's gonna be array instead. And what we're gonna do here is basically we are gonna want to drag out from this target. Let's actually rename this as targets. So let's drag out of this, and we want to get for each loop. Okay. Let's hook it up right here. This is gonna be so weird. Then from array element, we want to drag out somewhere in here. Let's add reroute node here. And now we just simply have to plug this into all these necessarily needed inputs. So let's drag out from this reroute node, and it's gonna set this the target of this render transform thing. It's gonna be the target for both of these set render translation. It's up here. Then the same for the down one. Here, and here. Is this all? Oh my gosh, so many. Yes, that should be it. Compensate. Yeah, this should be it. Now let's get back to our widget blueprint then once you're done with yours. So inside our widget blueprint, let's go to graph, and from event tick we want to drag out, and now we can one more thing I forgot to mention in my functions. Let's actually give this category, and I'm gonna call this a HUD, and then I wanna add a subcategory here. So I don't know how to pronounce whatever. I don't even know what's this called. Is it called this mark? But it's basically straight line. As you can see, it's the straight line. So if you add this straight line in between these categories you're using, it's gonna basically create subcategories inside categories. Hot, and I'm gonna call dynamics. Yeah, that's fine. And I'm gonna add this one into the same. Compile and save. Okay, now let's go back to the HUD menu. And now from event tick, we want to get this HUD. Where is our HUD? Here we have HUD and dynamics, and we have both of these, multi dynamic background and single dynamic background. So since I have only 2 images and they both are gonna have different values, I'm gonna use single dynamic background here. It's gonna be enabled. One thing, let's actually give this the default values. So let's go back to all my functions. For the local X, I'm gonna give the value as 50. I think it has to be done here. Yes, it has to be done here, not here. Sorry, this is wrong. This is wrong. I mean, we have to select our function here, and then inputs we can extend this one, and so X is gonna be 50, and I think Y is gonna be 50 as well, and interp speed is gonna be 5. You know, just to be safe, let's add the same values to these local variables as well. So 50, 50, and 5. Let's also make local smooth on and invert on, because the invert actually felt better. Do the same for the inputs as well. This is just to be safe. Now we have to do the same for the multi one. Oh, default value and default value. Did we? Okay, sorry. There we go. Multi-dynamic 5. Y with 50 and X is 50. Local variables. Okay, are they using the same? Because no, they are not. Okay, I am a little bit confused. Okay, yeah, sorry about that. So just to be safe, I added the default values for the local variables here, as well as the same for the inputs of these functions themselves. So they are all working completely safe. And now we have this, so we don't have to work. I mean, we have something at least when we start at first. So this is going to be my foreground. So the target is going to be my foreground. Then I'm just going to duplicate this behind here, and the background is going to be the next one. So how this actually works, I mean, these values, it's kind of weird, because if you want your, let's say your foreground to move a lot more than the background, so if you want to move more, then these values have to be lower. If you want it to move less, then they have to be higher. So background, I'm going to make 100 and 100. Interrupt speed, I'm going to leave it at 5, and these are done. Now we have to also make sure that we are actually creating this widget and adding it to the viewport. So I'm going to go in level blueprint here. This is not the place you want to do this really, but for the sake of this tutorial, I'm going to do it anyways. So create widget menu, and I'm gonna add it to viewport. So now let's see if everything worked like a charm. Yep, it seems like it's actually working. Nice. Then let's take a look how is the multi-target actually going to work. So let's back to menu. So instead of using single dynamic background, we're gonna use a multi HUD dynamics and multi dynamic background. It's the very same, but the only thing if you wanna add more in here is there's like 2 ways I know so far. I mean, out of my head. One is just drag out from the targets and just make array and add pin. So now we have added this and it's working. Well, it's not working. Okay, we did. We have to enable it first. Yeah. Okay, it's working. As you can see, they are all moving the same. Or then we can. One way is just create variable here. Let's call it targets. It's gonna be a widget and an array. And now then we can just basically add here some, if we can do that, but we can't do this basically. Okay, so I think there is, let me get this right. Okay, so the way you can actually add these multiple targets inside in this targets array is just drag out of these targets and we have to make array. Let's add a pin and hook this up here and here. So now it's applying the same amount of everything that we have set up here to all of these objects. So we're gonna play, and as you can see, it's actually working. Nice. All right. I think that was all. Thank you for watching, and I hope you find this useful for your own projects. And I'll see you later again. Bye.